Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to ESG Talks, a KBRA podcast series focusing on environmental, social, and governance, ESG. This podcast series highlights various ESG hot topics and includes commentary from prominent voices within the ESG community. In this episode of ESG Talks, Karen Daly, Senior Managing Director and Head of KBRA's Public Finance Team, interviews Kim Bizor Tolbert, Deputy City Manager of Dallas, and Liz Cedillo-Pereira, Assistant City Manager. Kim provides executive leadership to the Office of Risk Management, Aviation, Dallas Water Utilities, Human Resources, Communication, Outreach and Marketing, Office of Homeless Solutions, and the Small Business Center. As Assistant City Manager, Liz provides executive leadership to the Dallas Public Library, Office of Arts and Culture, Offices of Community Care, Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability, and the Office of Equity and Inclusion and Ethics. Karen, Kim, and Liz discuss city initiatives aimed at improving equity and inclusion for Dallas's diverse population.
Welcome, Kim and Liz. We are really delighted to have you with us today and look forward to a stimulating conversation on the S of ESG for the city of Dallas. Let's begin with Liz. Liz, Dallas is a very diverse city with a population makeup of 42% Hispanic, 29% white, 24% Black, and 3% Asian residents. Can you talk about why prioritizing equity is such a big priority for city leaders in Dallas?
Hi, Karen, and thank you. Thank you for having me today. Again, my name is Liz Cedillo-Pereira, and it really is a pleasure to be a part of your podcast, to underscore the S in ESG, and to talk about our goals for equity at the city of Dallas. As you mentioned, we have a diverse demographic as the 9th largest city in the nation, and we are proud that we have a thriving economy with industries and banking and tech and law, health, wonderful, excellent university systems, and we're always making lists for national notoriety around our growing economy as being a good place to start career and raise kids, et cetera. Super proud of that fact. And so that's why the work of equity is so important and so prioritized by our policymakers as well as our city management team. It's one of our core values of service. And we believe it's an important factor in individual, family, neighborhood, and community success when measured across various metrics like economic opportunity, like education, neighborhood and infrastructure, public health, and government, including justice, and essential services. Yes, we have a very diverse racial and ethnic demographic, people who were born here and people who go generations back, and those people who came from around the globe. 1 in 4 of us were born in another country here in Dallas. So that's what makes life so, I think, great in the city. But we also know that just because we're diverse doesn't mean we're equitable and inclusive. And so that's why we're trying to be intentional about creating an inclusive economy where all of us can thrive. And race does not predict outcomes and social outcomes. And that's why we're dealing intentionally with addressing our disparities here at the city.
Thank you. Let me follow up with the Dallas Equity Indicators Project, which is quite interesting. How has this initiative helped to improve racial and ethnic disparities in Dallas, especially across the projected 5 key themes of economic opportunity, education, neighborhoods and infrastructure, justice and government, and public health?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And this is the first ever for our city, right? We are in the midst of developing a racial equity plan. And in fact, we are briefing it to council in August. And it's intended to be a strategic framework to support our city in understanding and addressing disparities, as you mentioned, across our city. It's also being developed in collaboration with our residents and with our community to guide our city departments and offices to enhance their current plans, policies, and initiatives with aspirational and measurable goals to increase racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic equity. And what we're basing it on is data. It is critically important to the work we're doing. And so with that data, we know that how people are faring across those different themes that you mentioned: education, economic opportunity, in the justice system, how people relate to local government, et cetera. And so with the help of the Rockefeller Institute, frankly, we were one of the Rockefeller Foundation's 100 resilient cities back in 2018. We developed this data that is now guiding our efforts to be more thoughtful, more innovative, and more focused on addressing the inequities where we see disparity gaps for residents in our city.
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn to Kim and talk a little bit about infrastructure. So, Kim, let's dive a bit deeper into some of the city's current initiatives aimed at improving equity inclusion. One of the key parts of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was passed by Congress in late 2021 is addressing water and wastewater infrastructure and improving Americans' access to clean water. This topic was already a priority for Dallas with the Water and Wastewater Unserved Areas program announced in 2020. Can you talk more about this initiative, the challenges the pandemic posed, and the progress that has been made?
Hello, this is Kim. Thank you so much, Karen. Let me start by saying that our Dallas Water Utilities, which we refer to as DWU, really began tracking unserved areas in 1998. The original DWU Unserved Areas Report in 1989 identified over 125 geographical areas throughout the city where we needed to provide water and wastewater services. So after 30 years of development activities, we began looking as we started going through the process of identifying from an equitable standpoint changes that we needed to make. We began to update that report, and that work began in June of 2019. We were able to take the latest GIS water and wastewater infrastructure data, and at that time, over 62 areas were still in need of service. 46 of those areas were actually occupied. In 2020, in an effort to improve equity across our DWU water and wastewater systems, and to ensure that services was being provided to all Dallas residents, we updated the Unserved Areas Report to really include a breakdown of those areas that were occupied and those unoccupied. We started looking at what the cost would be from an infrastructure investment to really serve these areas. And then we prioritized the list of those projects based on things including cost, the number of residents who would benefit, and the different synergies that were currently underway with other city projects and initiatives within those areas. The unserved areas that aligned with other city initiatives really could help us really begin to deliver those services a lot sooner. And an example of that is that projects that were located within a reinvestment area, which was already associated with the city's comprehensive housing policy, those types of projects would then receive priority ranking. As of August 2021, with the implementation of infrastructure improvements at 3 locations and the addition of 7 new areas, there are currently today 67 total unserved areas. 51 of those are occupied, and the cost breaks down to about $64 million is what it would take to bring those occupied areas into service delivery, and $36 million for those that are unoccupied. Within the next 4 years, we are going to place into service and complete all of the design and the construction of these infrastructure improvements that are necessary to serve all occupied areas in the city of Dallas. The city has already awarded 3 contracts. We've broken ground. And through this pandemic, we have been able to make concrete progress toward an equitable water and wastewater infrastructure that is needed in order for us to serve all Dallas residents.
Thank you for that. That's really interesting. Kim, another topic that I want to hear your thoughts on is the issue around the city's homeless population. And I know you have a focus on rehousing. In 2021, the city announced a regional government and civic partnership with Dallas County, Dallas Housing Authority, cities of Mesquite and Plano, Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance, and the local continuum of care. Why, Kim, is it important to collaborate with other cities, counties, and groups to alleviate homelessness in Dallas, and what progress has been made?
Well, this is an exciting initiative for me. We have been able to, through this strong collaboration in partnering with other area municipalities and organizations, we have established the Dallas Real-Time Rehousing Initiative. It has created a very strong public-private partnership, which has leveraged the city's $25 million investment into a $72 million initiative. This initiative will allow us to collectively house over 2,700 plus people over the next 2 years. And it's the type of system, the type of initiative that really has allowed us to look at how we make massive change. We understand that it is not possible to do this type of work alone, but our homeless provider ecosystem and those organizations, those nonprofits, those philanthropic organizations that really play a huge role in how we solve this problem, they have been on board with this initiative. And we're able to not only direct the resources that we have, but leverage those resources across the board to really make this a true collective impact model. All of the organizations and municipalities have an established history of doing great work. And many of us have done that work on our own. But together with this initiative, we are accomplishing even more because every interaction is designed to maximize all of our resources where you would have potentially had redundancies or communication gaps prior to the Dallas Real-Time Rapid Housing Initiative. It is a huge shift in how we have approached our homeless situation. Our provider ecosphere has already made us more efficient and streamlined. And so there's no doubt that this will have a lasting positive impact well beyond the lifespan of the Dallas Real-Time Rapid Rehousing Initiative. And I want to report that as of this week, we have over 1,774 homeless individuals who have enrolled in the program. And we have 971 individuals housed today, and the remainder are on the pathway to housing. Our goal this year was to house 1,000 by September 30th, 2022. So you will see that we are well on track. We are averaging roughly 100 individuals per month placed in housing through this initiative. And we're excited that as we look forward toward the next year, that we will house well over 2,700 of our homeless neighbors within this 2-year time span.
That is terrific. Thank you. Our last question goes to Liz, and it is on the topic of broadband services. You really can't function well in our society today without access to broadband. And another of the city's initiatives have been expanding access to broadband services, increasing digital equity as part of the COVID-19 pandemic recovery plan. Liz, how is the city going about improving gaps in broadband and technology access while also expanding digital literacy services?
Karen, thanks for that question. And you're so right. I could not participate in this podcast without my broadband service today. Digital equity has become key and centered, namely, quite frankly, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Where city staff, when they were fortunate enough, were working from home, while many city staff were deemed essential services and critical services and could not be in the virtual working environment. We had to shift quickly the way we do business at the city. And of course, our school district is an independent system. They had to shift quickly. And as a mom of 2 kids in school, I realized that, I was willfully underprepared for my kids to be educated in a 100% virtual environment for a time being. So both as a professional at the city and as well as somebody who was in the system could see it from multiple angles. But really to build on Kim's excellent points, about working across various anchoring institutions to get work done. That's what we have done. And what we had like to say at the city is that equity is a process and an outcome. So we're working on developing outcomes that are going to pay as regards to investments in what we're doing. So in April 2020, the mayor developed an ad hoc COVID-19 committee. And that committee, which I served as liaison for, prioritized this critical issue of digital divide. So in collaboration with multiple city departments, and external partnerships, we took concerted steps to move very quickly to provide a response to our residents' needs and implement a strategic plan to address the digital divide in the city with short, medium, and longer term solutions. And so with a local cooperative agreement with our Dallas Independent School District, we retained an expert consultant to help us develop a longer term broadband and digital equity strategic plan. And that has helped us guide our efforts. And in the short term, the city utilized a portion of our CARES Act funding to focus on providing immediate relief to residents that were impacted by the pandemic. In terms of digital equity, that included purchasing laptops and internet hotspots that could be checked out through our libraries, and became very popular and continue to be very popular and continues to be a highly successful program. So it was a smart investment that we made with those emergency dollars. And then we had donations from private sources, from establishment like Cisco. We were able to extend free Wi-Fi to library parking lots to provide access to residents under COVID restrictions. And we know that the parking lot is not an ideal situation for children or students or anyone to get their work done. But it was what we did in that moment to realize that we needed to be proactive in addressing these needs. The city also introduced Wi-Fi pilot programs in residential areas, including a streetlight pilot project and extending Wi-Fi access from selected city facilities. So in the longer term, we're looking to implement recommendations of the strategic plan, looking to see how we can develop a fiber development so that we can be more resilient as a city and can integrate smart city initiatives, including a digital navigators program to help families enroll in internet service provider lower cost programs and expand digital skills to prepare our workforce for a more global, more digitized economy. Because we know, going back to our equity indicators that we discussed briefly, the data that supports some of our work, households without reliable broadband service face barriers in accessing telehealth, applying for jobs, and completing online homework assignments. So within our racial equity plan, we're actually aligning that plan with our broadband and digital strategic plan to build and improve infrastructure services to support increases in historically disadvantaged communities who have been burdened by floods and high energy utility costs. And we're also looking in a more immediate way to boost and extend free public Wi-Fi at all our parks and recs facilities at all our Dallas public libraries. We plan to complete that plan within the next couple of years. So it's working really hard and not doing it alone, as Kim addressed. We're doing it with our school system and whomever else is interested in addressing this barrier to internet, because we know that it's not only a luxury, it's something that everyone needs to function successfully and thrive.
Thank you, Liz. Kim and Liz, I want to thank you for a really interesting discussion. I know that all of our listeners are going to really enjoy hearing your thoughts. Thank you again.
Thank you to Kim, Liz, and Karen for a very interesting discussion. Please email esg@kbra.com with any questions or comments. We also encourage you to visit KBRA's ESG website at esg.kbra.com, where you can find ESG research related to the topics discussed in this episode, further details on KBRA's ESG approach, and other ESG-related media items. You can also join our mailing list to access our ESG weekly roundup newsletter. This concludes our episode. New episodes of ESG Talks air every other week. In the meantime, please visit kbra.com to access our other podcast series as well as our ratings and research.